Om. My humble pranams to Lord Ganesha. My respectful, humble namaskars to all readers and listeners. The wise men on the camel's back, also known as Untavarche Shahane, a longish story narrated by Grumpy Grandpa Pandemonium or Paragraje in 4 parts. Part Uno, that is Part 1. Once upon a time, in a dry, dusty village on the border of a desert, lived a poor man in his mud hut with his wife and children. We can say they were barely surviving because there was no electricity, scanty water, and of course, hardly any food. Now, the poor wife, fed up of her lazy husband, which is a common contagious complaint the world over, had reared some goats as a daily source of milk and as a future dinner delicacy on a stormy desert night when there was no other food and a goat was too old to yield milk. She followed a very practical and simple way of rearing the goats. This was by mainly adopting an age old policy followed successfully by political leaders the world over, namely, let the people or the goats fend for themselves and approach them only at voting or milking time. Now, as the goats were also hungry and subsisted on desert shrubs, they were always on the lookout for every teeny weeny morsel of food they could find in that desolate desert. As luck, destiny, fate, providence, niyati, vidhilikhit, prarabdha, daiva, karma, or nasib apna apna, call it what you may, would have it, on one fine day, one of the goats came across a mud clay cooking pot with a few grains stuck at its deep bottom end. In its instinctive response to its hungry belly, hey, hungry belly is a nice name for a food joint. The goat stuck its head inside the pot to lick up the morsels. However, the crazy goat, not being as clever as we humans are, forgot that she didn't have dexterous hands to pull her head out of the pot, and as was the natural outcome, she found her goat head caught in a mud pot. Blinded by the darkness inside the pot, she started running in fear, helter and skelter. But the pot was totally a perfect fit for her goat head, and being quite a sturdy pot, it wouldn't break easily. Luckily, there was some space at the top of the pot where her neck was caught, giving her an inlet to breathe air. The noise the goat made woke up the lazy man and his wife, and though they caught the goat by her legs and tried pulling the pot off, it was such a tight, perfect fit that it would not come off. In fact, all these bodily catching, holding, pulling, and pushings only scared the goat more, and it started kicking wildly. This commotion became a big source of entertainment in the village, which had no electricity and hence no televisions or Netflix or Twitters. So, a crowd of onlooker advisors soon gathered, giving the wildest advices imaginable. Dear reader, let's take a snacks break here and think of some advice on this situation, as it is our national, moral, ethical, humane, religious, ethnic, scholastic, ancestral, educational, legal, judicial, civic, divine duty to do so. So, welcome back, dear persevering reader, to part 2 or part Dvitiya for those who need to be told in English of our story. Suddenly, on the horizon, they saw a group of men coming towards the village riding on their bouncy ships. Hello, remember school day questions? Why is a camel called a ship of the desert? नानाची टांग त्या सिलेबसची उंटावर बस जा. Suggesting this as a divine sign of a redressing remedy to the poor man's stuck in a pot goat head problem, the onlooker viewers, without his permission, in their overflowing, helpful frenzy, waved and called out to the camel caravan to come towards them. With such a hearty invitation from the villagers, the camel caravan changed its course and reached the poor man's house. The leader of the caravan was a rugged old man who had a habit of twirling his big moustache with his fingers at every sentence he spoke. As was the custom, he introduced his caravan members. And what a uniquely assorted and chosen circus performers were they! There were body twisting acrobats and trapeze artists skillful at swinging from one bar swing to another with multiple mid-air somersaults, pole vaulters, daredevil stuntsmen, and expert animal trainers who held their wild pets on a tight leash, the mandatory clowns wearing swift color changing attires called turncoats, fire blowers who breathed out fire every time they opened their mouths, to mention a few. There were gents and damsels of all shapes, sizes, colors, and ages. Indeed, it was a caravan circus of truly unimaginable and uncomparable characters. Perhaps the over discerning reader or audience's mind may seek some similarities in a parliamentary or state assembly members to the circus caravan crew, but the innuendo is totally unintentional. The villagers were suitably impressed and awestruck by what seemed to be almost a galaxy of galactic angels sent by heaven to solve the poor man's problem. As was the prevalent custom, the leader did not alight or get down from the camel first, but instead drove the camel right into the small courtyard of the poor man's house. The door arch and its small short fence mud wall of the courtyard, over which the camel could have easily stepped over given its long heighted legs, was broken down by this traditional rule of enter through door only. But it was a minor matter which could be ignored, as when a great tall camel enters your house, a little adjustment by the host is normally expected. The camel, having entered the small courtyard, squatted luxuriously, overturning a big drum of water which the wife had just filled, spending her entire dawn with multiple trips to a solitary, almost dried up, far away, ultra deep well. The mud hut had a thatched, dried grass roof, and it was at a perfect height for the squatting camel, and it immediately began chomping on it. Like its masters, it did not believe in formalities and permissions. The leader got down from the camel, and after the usual exchange of welcoming pleasantries by the village elders, as the poor man in whose house the whole drama was unfolding had been royally pushed aside by this impromptu reception committee, lest his uncouth appearance upset and turn away the new guests. Now, the immediate problem was to suitably welcome these caravan circus guests as per their timeless ancestral customs of being a generous host. They reminded the poor man's wife that it was her duty to offer them a welcoming, refreshing starter. For had they not changed their usual travel path and come to help her in her crisis? Notwithstanding the poor wife's pleadings that she had nothing to offer, the villagers dismissed her protests as a humorous joke and, with a display of rare solidarity, started searching her hut for some eatables to serve the distinguished guests. Wonder of wonders. The village women hit a gold mine. Well, not actually, when while ransacking the poor man's kitchen, they found a pot full of grains which had been stealthily stored and hidden deep underground by the poor man's wife for her ever hungry, starving, ravenous brood of children for any unexpected emergency or famine. Being of a spontaneous, creative, make do with what you find nature, the neighboring village women at once broke the wooden rolling pin and other stray wooden items in the kitchen into pieces and lit up the fire in the earthen chula, which is a stove or cooking fireplace, to cook a gruel of the discovered grains for the guests who had arrived on camels' backs. Luckily, the goats had just been milked before the pot adventure took place, and so a nice boiling hot milky grain gruel or porridge was soon served to the wise men who had arrived on camels. The lip-smacking facial gestures of the guests were watched earnestly and copied by similar lip-smacking, empty-mouthed children of the poor man as if they were enjoying the porridge by proxy. After partaking of the porridge, the leader turned his wise attention to the immediate problem on hand, which, in case you, dear reader or listener, have forgotten in the course of this meandering crooked tale, was how to get the goat's head out of the pot. Upon being appraised of the whole problem by a host of cacophonous voices and from a quick, smart, drone-like visual situational assessment, the leader immediately surmised what the problem was. He nodded his hoary head, adorned by a huge turban, most knowingly, and said in a booming, serious tone, "My friends, dear villagers, pay heed to what I say. Indeed, your very lives depend on it. This is indeed an unprecedented, monumental calamity befallen on you all by some sinister conspiracy plan, or maybe by a black magic spell cast by some jealous people. This goat has been coaxed into putting its head into the pot. It's evident that the goat is thrashing about its legs and causing a ruckus as it is scared. This won't do at all. We must steady and stabilize the goat first. If we don't do this, who knows how this habit of poking one's head in others' pots may spread like wildfire. This won't do at all. Dear folks, the situation calls for immediate, drastic action. Here, let's take another much needed loo break. Please note, lest you interpret wrongly, that dust storms in deserts in a local language are called as loo.